Dear children, in this video you are going to learn about coordination and homeostasis in human body. It is very important to recall your memory regarding some of the lessons in grade 10 to continue with this lesson. Few such important terms are irritability, coordination, stimulus, response, receptors, and effectors. What is irritability? The ability of an organism to respond to stimuli coming from external or internal environment is irritability. Ability to respond for internal or external stimuli. It is irritability. Another very important term to know is stimuli or stimulus. The changes that take place in the environment, which is detectable by the sensory organs, are called stimuli. The changes that take place in the environment that can bring about a response. Any change occurring in the environment that can bring about a response in organisms is a stimulus. These stimuli are received by your sensory organs: eye, ear, nose, tongue, skin. These are the 5 sensory organs of your body. Inside these sensory organs, there are receptors. In the eye, the vision receptors. In the nose, the olfactory receptors, smell receptors. In the ear, auditory receptors. In the tongue, taste receptors. In the skin, pain receptors, pressure receptors, heat receptors, cold receptors. Like number of receptors are found in the skin. What is a response? The reactions made by the organism for a stimulus is called response. When the stimuli are received by the organisms, they make some reactions in their body. Such reactions for a stimulus is known as response. These responses are generated by muscles or glands in your body. These muscles or glands that make the responses for stimuli are known as effectors. The responses are generated by the effectors. For making a certain response in your body for a certain stimuli or stimulus, there should be a connection between the receptors and effectors. For generating a response in your body for a certain stimulus, there should be a proper connection between the receptors and effectors. A message or a impulse should be passed from the receptors to the effectors. This connection between the receptors and effectors is basically known as coordination. Without proper coordination, there is no proper responses. For responding, this coordination should be there. Have a look at this diagram, a picture. It's an animation. Try to comprehend what happens here. There's a bucket of ink on the top of the ladder. The man at the ladder see as if the bucket of ink falling on his head. So he ran away. Or fortunately or unfortunately, he had a nice ink bar. If I ask one question like this, what made him to run away? Why this man ran away? Seen a bucket of ink falling on his head. Here the stimulus is seeing a bucket of ink falling on his head. That is stimulus. The stimulus is received to your eye. The receptors in the eye receive the stimulus. Eye is the sensory organ that the stimulus is received. There's another question like this. What is the response made by the organisms after seeing that a bucket of ink is falling on his head? Running away. That's the response. What are the body parts helpful for him to run away? The muscles. The muscles are the effectors. From this small video clip, you can learn number of terms you see. The stimulus, receptors, response, and the effectors. The stimulus is seen a bucket of ink falling on his head. It was received by the receptor in the eye, the sensory organ eye. The response paid by the organism or the man is running away. The response was made with the help of muscles. The muscles are the effectors that originated this response. Dear children, these are the terms in a nutshell. In short, stimulus. Any change in the environment that can bring about a response in the body. Response, the reactions made by the body for a certain stimulus. Receptors, the organs by which the stimulus is received. The receptors are found within the sensory organs. Effectors are the organs by which the response is generated. The responses are made. Now I think you are ready to learn the next very important term, the coordination. The coordination is the connection between the receptors and effectors. The connection between the receptors and effectors is known as coordination. In other words, the adaptation of the body according to the changes of external and internal environment is called coordination. That's the connection between the receptors and effectors. In animals, the coordination occurs in two ways. One such is nervous coordination or the electrical coordination. The other method is non-nervous coordination or the chemical coordination. Nervous coordination and non-nervous coordination. Electrical coordination and chemical coordination. The nervous coordination or the electrical coordination occurs with the help of nervous system in your body. Chemical coordination occurs with the involvement of endocrine system in your body. That means you have to learn two systems helpful for the coordination in human body. Nervous system and endocrine system. In the first part of the lesson you are learning nervous coordination in man, and in the second part you are learning the chemical coordination, the coordination done by the endocrine system. Nervous coordination. Nervous coordination occurs with the involvement of your nervous system. I told you earlier it is an electrochemical coordination system. It is somewhat fast coordination method. In your nervous system, there's a structural unit. Your nervous system is made up of very large number of such structural units, a kind of cell called neuron. In grade 10 you learn about the three kinds of neurons: sensory neuron, motor neuron, and interneuron. Neuron is the structural unit of your nervous system. Sensory neuron, motor neuron and neuron. In this diagram you see three kinds of neurons. Here is a sensor neuron. They receive the impulses from the receptors and carry these impulses to the central nervous system or to the interneurons inside the central nervous system. These are interneurons. The interneuron carry the impulse to the motor neuron. Here a motor neuron. Motor neuron carry the impulse to the effectors. The receptors receive the impulse or the stimulus. Then that message or the impulse is carried by the sensor neuron and it is transmitted to the interneuron. The interneuron transmits the impulse to the motor neuron and motor neuron carries the impulse to the effectors. It is like this. Electrochemical signal passes through these neurons. For responding to a certain stimulus, at least three neurons should involve: sensor neuron, interneuron, and motor neuron. In this diagram, you see a motor neuron. Neuron is a cell. It has a nucleus and other organelles, cell body. The specialty of this cell is having some projections like dendrites, and one dendrite is so long we call it as the axon. I think you can remember, you learn about these things in grade 10. The basic, the structural unit of nervous system is neuron. The neurons exist in your body as bundles of neurons, enormous number of neurons compiled as bundles. We call it as the nerve. In your body, large number of nerves. Nerves are bundles of neurons. You see here a nerve. It consists of bundles of neuron. It has been dragged out one neuron here. These are a set of bundles of neurons. Set of bundles of neurons is called a nerve. What you see here is a cross section of a nerve. Inside this nerve you see very large number of neurons. In a neuron, the impulses are received by the dendrites and the impulse is carried away by the axon. Impulses are received by the dendrites and it is carried away by the axon. Dear children, you are going to learn about the nervous system and its function. If you think of your nervous system, it carries out nervous coordination, and your nervous system composed of two main parts: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system composed of brain and spinal cord. In the brain there are three major parts: cerebrum, cerebellum and medulla oblongata. The peripheral nervous system composed of 12 pairs of cranial nerves, the nerves arising from the brain or connected to the brain, and spinal nerves, nerves connected to the spinal cord, 31 pairs. Let's study about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system in more detail. What you see here is the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. Brain and the spinal cord, as the name implies, it is the central part of the nervous system. The peripheral nervous system, the nerves spread from the central nervous system to the other parts of the body, the peripheral nervous system, periphery. Let's study about the central nervous system. As I told you earlier, the central nervous system composed of the brain and spinal cord. Your brain is so complex. It decides who you are and what you do. In a way, it is the most important part of your body. What does it contain? Your brain composed of billions of neurons. Billions of neurons. You can understand the complexity of the brain. From the brain, it rises or 12 pairs of nerves connected to the brain. What you see here as threads or strings are the nerves connected to the brain. The spinal cord. The spinal cord is running through the vertebral column. It is protected by the vertebral column. The brain is protected by your skull, bony skull. The brain protected by the bony skull, and the spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column. Both the brain and the spinal cord, that means the central nervous system, is protected by meningeal membranes, three important membranes covering up the brain and the spinal cord, known as meningeal membranes. Meningeal membranes protects both the brain and spinal cord. If you look at this diagram, you see here the bony skull. Bony skull protect the brain. Here the vertebral column. This spinal cord is encapsulated, or the spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column. It is also a bony structure. Then both the brain and spinal cord are protected by three membranes. Three membranes here. Three membranes. Even in the spinal cord, it is protected by three membranes. You can't see that here. Both the brain and spinal cord are protected by three important membranes called as meningeal membranes. The meningeal membrane includes three membranes, three parts: dura mater, arachnoid membrane, and pia mater. Dura mater, arachnoid membrane, and pia mater. In between these membranes, there's a fluid-filled cavity, a cavity filled with the fluid. Between the arachnoid membrane and pia mater, there's a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. In both brain and spinal cord, it is protected by meningeal membranes, and in both the brain and spinal cord, cerebrospinal fluid is found in between these membranes. This cerebrospinal fluid in between these Meningeal membranes are very important and they perform some important functions like this. This fluid support the brain and spinal cord. It bear up and it absorbs the shocks and jerks. Though you fall and stuck your head somewhere, that shock is absorbed by this fluid. It is important as a shock absorbent liquid. The third importance of the cerebrospinal fluid is protection against microbial infection and desiccation. If the brain is desiccated, dried up, you will die. To protect the brain from desiccation and against the microbial infections, this cerebrospinal fluid is important. The microbes are normally not passing through this cerebrospinal fluid, it protects. And this cerebrospinal fluid is important for nourishing the tissues. So dear children, you must know the importance of cerebrospinal fluid found in between meningeal membranes are important in number of ways. Support the brain and spinal cord, absorption of shocks and jerks, protection against microbial infections and desiccation, and nourishing the tissues. What you see here is the meningeal membranes, dura mater, arachnoid membrane, and pia mater. In blue color it has been shown here cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. It continues even to protect the spinal cord. Spinal cord. Three membranes protect both the brain and spinal cord. Some general facts about the brain. The weight is about 1300 grams to 1400 grams. It is made up of billions of neurons, 100 billions. It is the most complex living structure in the universe, and it decides who we are and what you do. If you take the human brain, there are three major parts: cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla oblongata. Be familiar with the words. Cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. Cerebrum, the front part of the brain, the largest part of the brain, cerebrum. Then this part is known as cerebellum. Cerebellum. And this, the brain stem, which is connecting to the spinal cord, is known as medulla oblongata. All these three parts are performing very important functions in your body: cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla oblongata. Cerebrum, the largest part; cerebellum, brainstem or the medulla oblongata. In this diagram, it is very clear to you how the spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column and how the brain is protected by the skull, bony skull. Number of nerves are connected to the brain, 31 pairs and 12 pairs and 31 pairs of nerves connected to the spinal cord. If you get a cross section of brain, you can identify two regions, the peripheral region or outer region and inner region, in two different colors. The outer region of the brain is uh, gray matter. Gray matter. The middle part or the inner part of the brain can be seen in white color, so you call it as white matter. What does it contain? The gray matter contains cell bodies of the neurons. I told you at the very beginning the brain consists of enormous number of neurons. The cell bodies of such neurons are mainly found in this outer part or the peripheral part of the brain. We call it as the gray matter. The middle part of the brain is whitish in color, it is white matter. The axons of the neurons are mainly found in this white matter. Let's study the three main parts of the brain and their functions. Cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest and the most highly developed part of your brain. It is divided into right hemisphere and left hemisphere. Right and left hemisphere by a deep fissure. There's a deep fissure. You can separate the brain into two halves like the right hemisphere and left hemisphere. On the surface of the brain, it is highly convoluted to increase the surface area and to increase the brain capacity. You see the structure, highly convoluted. That is to increase this brain capacity, surface area. We call that the brain cortex. In your brain, the right side of your brain controls the left side of your body, and the left side of the brain controls the right side of your body. The nerves arising from the right side are connected to the left side of the body, and the nerves connected to the left side controls the right side of the body. In this brain, what you see here is hypothalamus, another part in the inner or lower part. We call it the hypothalamus. In the top view, you can't see that. If you remove one part and see, you can see the hypothalamus of the brain. The next part of the lesson, you are learning about the hypothalamus. What are the functions of this largest part of the brain, or the cerebrum? The cerebrum store the information. Your memory, and perception of senses about the pain, vision, temperature, taste, and smell. Like the senses are perceived to your brain. You know, some people can't see the things because of not something wrong with the eye, because of something wrong with the brain. Though you get the stimuli to the eye, the image is interpreted and understood by your brain. The brain, cerebrum. Perception of senses about the pain, vision, temperature, taste, and smell. Everything identified by your cerebrum. And the cerebrum perform higher mental activities like learning, intelligence, thinking. They are maintained by cerebrum. Controlling the voluntary muscle contractions. For example, if you want to bend your arm or stretch your arm, that control is by your cerebrum. The voluntary muscles are controlled by cerebrum. Memory, the storage of information, perception of senses, performing higher mental activities like learning, intelligence, thinking, logical thinking, and controlling voluntary muscle contraction. Dear children, the second part, the cerebellum. If I show you the diagram again, cerebrum, here the cerebellum. Cerebellum also consists of two hemispheres, like in cerebrum. It is also composed of gray matter and white matter. Gray matter in the peripheral part and white matter in the interior part. Cerebellum performs some important functions like this: maintaining the body balance. If some damage occurs to the cerebellum, you will lose your body balance. And it controls voluntary muscle activity. And it involves in maintaining body movements, the motor activities. Body movements, balance, and controlling of voluntary muscle activities. They are the functions of cerebellum. The third part, medulla oblongata, is the brainstem. And the medulla oblongata keep the connection between the spinal cord and the brain in a way. Medulla oblongata, it is located and anteriorly interior to the cerebellum. Anteriorly interior to cerebellum. It is important to control involuntary actions like swallowing, respiration, heartbeat. You can't control them by your own. You can't control the heartbeat as you like. It is involuntary control with the involvement of medulla oblongata. And sneezing, like reflex actions, immediate responses without your voluntary control, are maintained by medulla oblongata. You know, when something comes to your eye, you close your eyes without your knowledge. That is a reflex action, immediate response. They are controlled by medulla oblongata. Even in a small children, you know, infants, they close their eyes when something comes to the eye without thinking, without any knowledge on that. They are reflex actions. These reflex actions are maintained by medulla oblongata. Involuntary actions are controlled by medulla oblongata. Respiration, hiccups, sneezing, heartbeat, like actions. If a strong impact occurs to the backside of your neck, backside of your head, the person would immediately die. The person would immediately die because of damage to the medulla oblongata. When such damage occurs to the medulla oblongata, the respiration stops, the heartbeat stops, the person dies. There was a question in one of the past papers regarding this. A person would die immediately when there's a damage to the back part of the brain or back of the neck, like because it damaged the medulla oblongata. The functions, as we discussed, controlling the heartbeat, rate of respiration, cough, vomiting, swallowing, like reflex actions. Hey children, in my next video, I hope to discuss about the spinal cord and the peripheral nervous system and endocrine system. You are referring to your textbook and do some questions based on nervous system and There are some questions given in the past papers. You refer to the past papers book and do the questions based on this. And goodbye, children.